I'll get some additional light and we'll go ahead and get kicked off, okay?
Sounds good.
One second, Sheldon. Typically, Sheldon, I'm having these meetings out of Black Cactus, but I've been in LA the past several days. And so
The Oscars. Yes, righteous.
all right, you just got a little bit of my I was watching Rick and Morty last night.
Oh, there you go. That show is a lot deeper than
Oh
people
man.
or at times. And let me just tell you, I've been brought to tears some episodes, dude.
Come on now.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and it's I'm a writer, brother, and a lot of people just don't really, in my opinion, understand the level of detailed storytelling that takes place on that show.
100%, dude.
Like it's pretty incredible, and even the way that they're able to keep track of all the different timelines and the character development and yeah, it's a pretty incredible show. So, and that I'm a creature of habit. I'm gonna just tell you that straight up. And so, there's so much like just junk content on airwaves these days that I would rather watch the same thing over and over again and learn something new
Yep.
than to, get involved in, like, I don't think I've ever seen an episode of The Bachelor, for example.
Yep.
You
Never
know,
watched it.
and not judgment, not judgment.
Yeah, not
You
at
know what
all.
I'm saying? But but yeah, man. So super excited to be here as a quick rundown. Today's episode of Cactus Sessions features Sheldon, who is a partner and co-owner of Tease shirts. Right? Is
Yeah,
that correct?
that is correct.
Awesome. And so today's conversation, we're going to be chatting a little bit about merchandise and merchandising as an opportunity for businesses to develop. But I'm certainly interested, Sheldon, in maybe having you introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of today's meeting.
Awesome. Well, my name is Sheldon Clark. My friends call me Shelly Shell. I've been involved in this industry for about the last 2 years. Before that, did tons of sales and direct-to-consumer sales for some of the largest cannabis companies in the state of California. Assisted them with a lot of building and branding out over the last decade. And that's where my knowledge and expertise of merchandising and actually helping people build brands comes from. It was from having to exist in a sea of thousands and thousands of competitors and figuring what you need to do in order to stand out, how to build loyalty, and how to do it affordably, and not dump everything in there right away. So,
Oh, wow, that's super interesting. And how did you get into the cannabis space and building brands on the cannabis side? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so a really close friend of mine actually owned a dispensary before Prop 64. I helped them manage their dispensary. Met a very who is now a very good friend of mine named Amanda. She worked for a company called Heavy Hitters, and actually saw me at the shop and said, "Hey, you need to come work for us." I was like, "Okay, well, this sounds quite interesting. I'll give it a shot." And I did. And since then it's been about a decade of building that from the ground up, along with like several other brands, Lift Tickets, Papa and Barkley, Almora, and truly realizing like in the cannabis space, existing and fighting and clawing in that space is probably one of the most difficult areas
Mm,
to have success in.
mm,
Not only in sales and in understanding your consumer base and your actual clientele, which are the retail stores,
mm-hmm.
and also ensuring that you have brand loyalty and figuring out what you can do to showcase that brand loyalty at all times and also make it functional.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's actually, thinking about it out loud, I'm always big on, like your business plan. And your business plan, it's a living, breathing document that you have to update from time to time, right? Because a lot of it is just like it's your hypothesis, it's a best guess
Mhm.
about, how your business is going to operate, right? And that then includes your mission statement, your vision statement, your core values, your value proposition, and then how that translates into the products and services that you offer, and then to your whole point, like who your customer base is. And
Yep, nailed it.
right, that then provides like the foundation of this body that you are establishing and building, which is then indicative of that brand that you got done
Right.
describing. Whereas a lot of people, they want to get started with the name and the logo, without really having some of those fundamentals taken care of and thought through enough, right? But then all of those things come together to then provide this tangible thing for someone to interact and engage with, right? And particularly as you start growing as a team.
Correct. You're
Um,
100% correct in that. I've seen in that space, people throw together logos and images because they're like, "Hey, this is cool. This is now our brand." And I'm like, "All right, well, what's the backstory?
right,
But like, why are you doing this?" And that's important for me to know as I help to build, because there has to be a reason,
right,
and your reason is your North Star. And a lot of people will come in and say, "Oh, well, I just wanted to come into this industry and just make as much money as possible. There is no backstory." I'm like, "All right, well, how do you relay that message to your consumer base?"
right.
Because if they hear that and you're like, "Oh, if you're just here for the money and you don't really care," where that's their actual response as well.
So let me ask you. So then my question to you is, what is your North Star, Sheldon?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked. I genuinely love helping people. I genuinely love helping people.
Okay.
Call it something that's been, a part of me since as long as I can remember. But I consider it a superpower, my ability to actively listen and pull the pain points out of people just from actively listening, and then being solutions based. We
Mm,
all have we all have problems in life, whether it's business related or it's personal, and sometimes you need someone from the outside who can just listen to those things and then actually point out the solutions, like tangible solutions that can help. It's another reason why something I'm doing on the side is I also decided to become a life coach,
oh
and
wow.
finished all of my classes for that, had graduation. So it's part
Congrats.
of me wanting, like I said, to genuinely help people, whether it's personal or business, and that's
Right.
that's my North Star, is leading with love.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And how does it then translate into what you would like? What are some of your skill sets? What is your value proposition as an individual?
It's definitely the creative side, and my processes that involve, thinking from small to large scale and being able to see the big picture but also navigate how to get there.
Mm,
A lot of times we will help some companies start off launching apparel, and their thing is, hey, I just want to bring out a hoodie or just want to bring out a shirt, but I have no idea where this is going to lead or why I'm even doing it. I'm seeing everyone else bring out this apparel, and then helping them and guiding them into saying, hey, let's take some small actionable steps. Let's look at
right.
the small picture, your why and your reasoning why, and then let's look at the big picture and think the future, and let's think scalable, and let's think purpose as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's definitely part of the skill set.
I love that, man. And so that, in my opinion, is a perfect segue into, because you mentioned hoodies, like, which
Yes.
is a very specific example. And certainly shout out to T-shirts. Long story short, I ran for office last year,
Mhm.
and as part of that exercise, I was looking for new ways to expand my marketing efforts, and that I'm traditionally a digital first guy.
Yep.
But particularly in the desert, I was recognizing the importance of offline channels,
Yes.
right? Particularly in the form of banners, and leveraging banners as in order to get eyeballs related to both foot traffic and regular traffic, right? And so it was sort of a chance encounter in that I almost ordered my banner on, one of the major sites is either going to be like the UPS store or something like that. And I was like, nah, dude, like, part of my job, particularly as a co-working owner, is representing the power of, the people power of local, right? And shopping local. And so I engaged with T-shirts in order to help me with some of my banner printing efforts. And Sheldon, just being this awesome guy that he is, swung by and dropped off some mugs indicative of two of the brands that I was operating, which, I'll never forget. And that was so kind of you. And it really opened my eyes in terms of, the ability to navigate like my core offering of, co-working or consulting, et cetera, but then being able to translate that into merchandise that I could help round out my business plan and the products and services that I can offer. And so, on from that perspective, I'm just sort of curious, Sheldon, what's the story behind T-shirts, how you got involved, and what's your role there, here in 2025? What's your job with Tease?
So let's start with the company in itself. Originally founded by Debbie Gubler, I believe it was 1982. So the store itself and the name is older than I am.
Wow.
Uh, we were able to purchase it just about 2 years ago from one of their former employees, and the goal was to protect the name, but then to expand it. It had been such a staple in the high desert in Yucca Valley in 29. We didn't want to see that go away. And when the opportunity presented itself for us to be able to take the reins, um, we jumped at the opportunity. And then also the way my brain works, I saw it as an opportunity for me to continue to be able to help people.
Awesome.
I remember the day you walked in and we started talking about the banners. And like I said, actively listening. I'm like, oh, co-working space. Got it. There's going to be people there. Early in the morning, these people are probably going to want coffee. They should probably have some coffee mugs with their logos on it, because that's just exposure.
Right.
If that person is sitting down at a Zoom meeting with whoever they're speaking to on the other side of the planet, and they're
Wow.
taking a sip from your coffee mug, your logo is now on Zoom. And that's
That part. Heck
yeah,
yeah.
and that's the goal. I consider myself to be a jack of all trades here, minus production.
Okay.
Sometimes I get in the way of that. I am not the most skilled production person, I will admit.
Hey, know
But
your skill sets and know thyself, brother.
exactly. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to play to my strengths.
Right.
My strengths, it's listening to people and understanding that and helping to drive business. And so I decided to take on that role full time.
Oh, awesome. And so yeah, so you've continued to remind me, and I, want to make sure that I provide, a platform or at least a spotlight to some of your partners. And
Yes,
I understand you guys identify as a women-owned business, is that correct?
that is correct. So the other two owners, Michelle and Lindsay, who could not be here this morning, they are the backbone
Okay.
of this entire operation. They are the creative geniuses. They're also the people.
Okay.
I just deal with the people, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so, you've got almost this like gumbo pot of, business owners that have, shared responsibility that, and I've had partners before, and, partners can be a hit or a miss, man,
Yeah,
particularly if, people don't have complementing skill sets, or, you know, somebody is like more invested than the other. And so I'm sort of curious as to how has your identity shaped the culture and or vision of t-shirts, and what's the dichotomy of that related to your partners?
so that's actually a really good question, and I'm glad you asked that because that's probably one of the hardest parts in business, is dealing with partners, especially opinionated ones. If there's varying ideas or
Right.
processes, and the most important thing that I felt that I could bring to the table was, like I've said this before, my ability to listen and to
Right.
actively listen and to figure out, okay, your points are valid, your points are also valid, these ideas are also valid that I have. How do we combine those processes,
Mm,
using everyone's strengths? That way, everyone feels empowered, everyone feels recognized, seen, and heard, and then using those things to build out, even just the standard SOPs on how we do business, which
right.
was extremely important. Um, but then also realizing that all three of us had the exact same mindset, which was very important, and that was to take the business and to grow the business and to literally lead with love. Like
Mm,
that was the basis of everything. It's like, why is this important to you? As I asked each partner, it's important to me because I actually love doing it, is what I
mm,
heard from both of them, which was also
wow.
my answer as well. And it's like, okay, we have a commonality, and that was the foundation to build off of. It's like, if you truly love what you do, yes, then let's protect this and let's build off of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that, I'm hoping you can expand on the acronym for those that don't know. Tell us, what are SOPs and why are they important to particularly your business, merchandising?
Yes, the standard operating procedures. It's important because without it, everyone operates on their own. My conversation with you and what I feel is important and the processes and guidelines that I use should be the same for everyone,
Right.
especially when you're starting from scratch, which is exactly how I approached the business, was starting from scratch. If you don't have those things, you tend to run into chaos, just because of human nature of, oh, I think this is the best way. Well, I think
Right.
this is the best way. Well, both of those ways could be right, but now you have several different processes. And if I deal with
Woo.
a client one way, and then that same client comes in and they end up dealing with Michelle, or they end up dealing with Lindsay, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, well, it wasn't like this the last time I came in here. You don't want to cause confusion. You want things to be as smooth
Totally.
as possible. You need an extremely strong foundation, because in the parts of any business, you want to grow. And if you want to grow and you're going to bring in numerous employees, you want them to also be trained the exact same way. You want them to have something that they can refer to if they ever have a question. And you don't want them also receiving several different bits of information that are different.
Totally.
That just causes more confusion. And it was extremely important. And I learned that over the last decade is, hey, if you're going to start a business, yes, you have to do this. It's a lot of work and a lot of screen time, and a lot of different ideas. But if it's not done, chaos will rear its head at some point in time. So it
Totally.
was done to avoid having all of that happen.
Yeah, and Sheldon's point, I think it's important for everyone to remember, going back to this concept of your business plan is a living, breathing document.
Mhm.
Your SOPs are also living, breathing documents, but at some point, you have to create a baseline for how you do things, and that can be across the different departments of your organization, whether it's marketing or finance or sales or product delivery, right? It becomes really, and they're almost like checklists or best practices for, we start with number one, we go to number two, go to number three, all the way to number 10. And if you
Mhm.
find out, with time, and this is why reviews and retrospectives and having open and honest conversations with your partners and or employees is so important, is that you
Mhm.
can understand, what's working and what's not working, and then you can update the procedure, right? But if
Yep.
everything is living in your head, how is that fair to anyone within your team for you to have the expectation that they're going to do it exactly like you each and every time, right?
Exactly.
And the challenge is that it's not about the way that you do it or the way that she does it, it's about the way that we do it,
Exactly.
right? Which is
Yep.
then indicative of the brand, the culture, and the standards that we're interested in maintaining, right?
Oh, 100%. I think we are currently on revision number 5. Uh,
Right.
because because the day one SOPs look drastically different from the ones today,
Yes.
where it was all right. What's the mission statement? Survive. It's like, all right, we've survived now.
That
So
part.
and like you said, uh, realizing what works. And I think a lot of people are actually afraid of that portion where it's, hey, we're doing something, and then the blinders are on, and they're like, we're just gonna do it this way, where you actually need to do some reflection.
Right.
You need to talk to everybody involved, all the decision makers, and you need to look over the processes and say, hey, is there anything that we can do to streamline this, to have it be more efficient? Maybe some of the processes have changed, maybe a supplier name has changed, maybe production times have changed, especially as we grow and we get busier. A 2 to 3 day turnaround time is almost impossible on certain projects where we
Right.
need at least 7 to 12 business days just to do that, because we're still also now continuing to grow and then also catering to other people. Whereas in the very beginning, it was like, oh, hey, this person walked in. Awesome, you can have it tomorrow.
Right.
Just trying to get things out there. So it is very important. Reflection is a underutilized strength
Yes.
that I think
Yes.
everyone needs to tap into. It's okay to look inward and realize that something needs to change. It's fine. That's that's part of business. If you remain stagnant, you will get left behind.
And it doesn't have to be complicated or complex. I mean, having a once a month meeting or maybe once a quarter,
Yeah.
where I mean, in addition, I think you need to have a separate planning meeting, but then also, to your point, a retrospective on what worked, what didn't work, how can we improve, being realistic. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I want to sell $1 million. But then to your whole point, it's like, well, do you have the capabilities, the capacity in
Mhm.
order to deliver $1 million worth of products or services, right?
Yep.
Or do you maybe want to scale and get up there, right? But
Exactly.
right now, if you're being realistic, right, you're at maybe 250,000 or 300,000, right? And this is the path in order to get there,
Right.
because I think, to your whole point, and that then becomes, such the challenge, and I've created this formula where I say that respect times reputation equals your value to the square root, or to the power of your values.
Oh,
And
dude, I love that. You're gonna have to
right.
send me that. You're gonna have
Okay.
to send me that one. Okay. I was like,
Right.
oh, and math? Oh yeah.
Right. Well, because I mean, if you think about it, it's like a lot like your self-respect, a lot of that comes in the form of your own self-esteem related to the believability of you being able to do something well over and over again, right? And then your reputation is other people hiring you for a job and them having that same level of respect based off of your ability to deliver that value. And so they're then willing to pay you, right, a certain rate based off of their interpretation of their respect and your reputation. And typically, the modifier or the multiplier, excuse me, is your value set, right? And that then comes in the form of the core values of your business. Do you value timeliness? Do you value uh goodness gracious, I mean, there's so many to think of. High quality, right? For example. And so, if you can then have replicable processes, and it's like, the McDonald's cheeseburger, they have created a formula where you're willing to pay $1.25 for that cheeseburger because your understanding of what you're gonna get is very matched on their ability to deliver the same type of cheeseburger over and over again, right? And
Yep.
that then is indicative of the brand, right? And
Correct.
so, do you get what I mean?
Oh, 100%. It's the value of yourself is what people are eyeballing.
Yes.
And it's why we always hold ourselves to such high standards. It's why, and I've often told people this when they come in. I said, dealing with us, I consider it to be, an honor and a privilege both ways. I said, one, we are not just a screen where you upload your image and you hit buy and then that's it. Sometimes that product shows up and it is not what you're expecting. I said, when you're dealing with us and myself especially, I said, I will be borderline annoying with the amount of questions that I have to ask you because this is you. Whatever I'm producing is going to
Yes.
be forever tied into Terrence, for example. And I need you to be extremely happy with whatever the outcome's going to be, whatever the final image is going to be. And sometimes we've talked about, hey, what about sizing this way? What about having this way? What about, this shade of black? Yes, we should go for a bigger banner or a smaller banner, just depending on what you actually need. You don't get that anywhere else.
Right.
It's literally click and buy, click and buy, click
Right.
and buy.
Right.
It's
Right.
very, it's a consumer based, right? And people are just taught to put things in the cart, hit ship. If it shows up and it's not what I'm looking for, send it back. And I'm like, well, we don't have time to send things back. You're on a deadline.
Ooh.
You have a schedule that you need to stay on. There are events that are planned out, and that's where the consultative nature of us
Right.
actually really plays a huge part. It's because we look at everyone as a partner in how we do business. Because if you're going to wear that shirt outside or wear that hat or proudly display that banner, I want you to feel, such confidence and such love in that thing that when someone asks, where'd you get that? You stop everything that you're doing. You're
That's
like,
right.
I got that at t-shirts, go talk to Sheldon or Michelle or Lindsay, who's ever there. Tell them I sent you. They do amazing work. And that's what we're actually seeing from the community. And I could not be happier about all of it.
I love that, man. Yeah, no, and you're so right. And that's why, I always try to tell people it's like it's one thing to win the business, but if you're not treating your customers as partners that are going to buy from you over and over again, right? Then
Mhm,
you are sadly misguided in that, I think to your whole point, right? If it's like a one and done and you're churning and burning, you're
mhm.
probably not going to be in business very long because your reputation's not going to be great, right?
Exactly.
So on that note, let's go ahead and transition a little bit. Now, from your perspective, Sheldon, what makes a piece of merchandise truly work? Whether it's a t-shirt, a hat, or a tote bag, anything. Like what makes a piece of merch work?
Functionality.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
Uh, for example, I've seen companies like let's say in the cannabis industry that want to do like a
Okay.
drawstring backpacks, that they give away at events. While I enjoy doing them, I feel at times, depending on the brand and the image, the amount of exposure that they want, from my own personal experiences of being given some bags like that. A lot of times they end up in the closet. A lot of times they end up
Mm,
unused, and you don't. It's almost like that one and done. You don't get as much visual exposure and functionality and daily usage out of that particular item as
mm,
you want to. Now you can have like an upgraded version of that bag that has the slots for headphones, or maybe it has a zipper on it, and you add a zipper and you instantly increase the functionality of said bag. Shirts, hoodies, those are things that people love wearing. Pens. The pen is the most underutilized but highly functional like piece of promotional item that anyone can ever own, because pens are constantly in people's hands if they're writing and taking notes. And if it's a really good pen, and I am a pen snob at times, if it's a really nice writing pen, it is my pen forever. I don't let anyone use it. It stays in my shirt pocket. And if it just happens to have cactusspace.com on it, I will always think of Cactus Space every time I sign my name on something or put the date down somewhere else. So yeah, functionality is definitely something that I encourage everyone to take a look at.
yeah,
Functionality varies from brand to business,
totally,
you know?
totally. Yeah, and that I mean, it's to your whole point, and that's where you have to be very careful. And some of that I think is the deep level of intimacy and knowing who your customer is,
Yep.
what the piece of merchandise is for, right? And it's less to your whole point about pushing your message on someone and having something functional that pulls people in, that
Yes.
then allows them to have a deep level of affinity for your brand, and that you are solving a problem for them over and over again, right? Versus
Sir.
just giving them a cheap piece of plastic, or something that is like, oh, you don't, it's a tchotchke, you don't really even
Yeah.
care about this thing, you know what I mean? And I'm just gonna, are you just giving me more junk that I need to figure out what to do with in my closet, or
Yes.
something along those lines, right? Which is very nuanced.
Yes. It's
um
it's the reason why like I said earlier, where we ask a lot of questions, and
right,
I love asking questions, because that's how I figure out what the true purpose is. If you and I were to have a conversation about onboarding something like that, I would I would rather you have pens and coffee mugs than have like lanyards and stickers.
right.
A lanyard is a great piece of promotional product, but doesn't necessarily work for you in that space when I'm looking
Mm,
at functionality,
mm.
you know?
So I mean, and so I think I know what the answer is, but what's the first thing a small business owner or creative should ask themselves before launching or investing in merchandise?
Why?
Why? Okay.
Why? Like what's your why? Like are you doing this because you want the exposure, you need the exposure? Are you doing this because it's going to be driving revenue? Like you
Okay.
have to I would love to know your why, and that
Mm,
would help me narrow down exactly what you need. Um, I've had some people, they'll come in and the first thing they say is, "Hey, I want to launch a brand and I want to do 50 hoodies." And I'm like, pause. Uh, How many pre-orders do you have on this thing? I am I I am not a give me your money type person. I
mhm.
love repeat business, and I love proving that our business model that we have is successful. And sometimes that comes in small bite-sized chunks instead of one large thing. And I would rather start small, figure out exactly what it is that we're looking at, test the waters, and then jump in the deep end.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and that's, I mean, again, a level of nuance that I hope people are walking away with and from today is, you can have your merch that is maybe purely promotional materials, where you're reaching out to maybe like influencers, for example, and you want to give them like a sticker pack and some merchandise where they, can tell their audience about you, right? Versus having a line that you are looking to create sales around, right? And before making that investment into sales, it's being able to measure and understand, well, what is the demand for this, right?
Correct.
And both of those need to happen before you actually decide that you're going to pull the trigger and buy something, is what I'm hearing from you.
Oh, 100%. And going back to my earlier statement, the person that has that mindset, if they're sitting in front of a screen with a large supplier, they might just hit buy
Right.
and just order things because the other side of that screen is not asking them their why. It's not
Woo!
asking them like, hey, what's the reason? Have we tested the water? You do realize it's about to be 120 degrees. I don't know if hoodies will be the best bet for you
Right,
right
right,
now.
right.
Like that's gonna have to wait until like October, November. So yeah.
Well, and that, I mean, and I know, and that's where people really need to be careful in that, and a lot of that is market research, whether, having that one-to-one relationship with your customers or being able to pull from a market research report or something along those lines. But, and I'm sure that you have heard, and maybe you can illuminate us a little bit, but what sort of horror stories have you heard about maybe somebody buying too much inventory and just having to sit on it, for example, because they didn't do their homework?
I hear that probably about once a week with
Wow.
with someone coming in asking for like a completely different product, and then through the conversations, learning, hey, well, I was doing this initially. We have this person drop shipping, they're doing the fulfillment. I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like for you? Like, I'm still sitting on inventory from a year ago.
Oof.
And it's like, oh, well, that's all right. So we have to get rid of that because that's going to, first of all, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth for even merchandising in the first place. Because
Mm-mm-mm.
now all of a sudden, every time you go there, you see boxes of things that aren't moving. And then you're having a conversation with Sheldon who's saying, hey, you might need this item. But then in the back of your head, you're like, oh, but I have all these unused things that are still sitting here. I need to get rid of those things before I bring on anything else, even if it's
Right.
something that's vitally important, like to you and to the business. So it's the horror stories are real. Um, if I could if I could leave everyone here with one thing, it's start small
Okay.
and talk. And like I said, it's hard to talk to a screen. Buy local as much as you can. Even if it's not from me, like if wherever you are, if there's a small local shop, go have a conversation with them, explain to them exactly what it is you're looking for, exactly what it is that you want. Um, and then feel the vibe out. And if it feels like it's more of a, hey, we just want your money, give us your image, then you come see me, and then we'll
Right.
have a different conversation.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing is that some of the more common mistakes are, not having functional products, not doing enough research, and
Yeah.
maybe starting too big.
Yeah. And we do all the market research for you. Like
Oh,
I have
wow.
like I have access to all that data, broken down by state, broken down by county, and also even broken down by individual item. The
Wow.
demographics can include anything from gender to age group to business category. And we can pull all of that information up, and then we can actually see if perhaps the item that you're looking at even aligns with that current demographic, because
Mm,
things are also very, very flexible. So that sheet may not be 100% accurate all the time for you, but it can
mhm.
still help to give you insight,
Right.
you know? And,
Right.
that, and that, that's what I think is the most important. It's knowledge.
Totally. Well, and that's what people really need to understand. It's like, and to your whole point, I mean, market research changes with time,
Yes.
right? And that's why you need to have a really healthy pulse of, your customer and how their pain points are changing and maturing with time. And a lot of that, that's a lot of what Black Cactus offers, outside of just the co-working space. We help to supplement that with our technology solutions, and some of that comes in the form of website development, helping with CRM, for example, customer relationship management software, so that you can, keep track of your customers and the different conversations that you're having to then be able to, and that some of that then comes in the form of new product development, right? Which, going back to your business plan, well, hey, maybe you got started with these products and or services based off of your best guess 6 months ago, but maybe 2/3 of them aren't selling. And so you maybe need to whittle down to your core offerings and then search for other
Give it
opportunities,
somewhere else. Yep.
right?
100%. 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man. And a lot of that, to your whole point, is listening, asking questions, and ensuring that you're not burning the bridges from the people that want to come to you time and time again.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I love repeat business. I mean,
That part.
I love brand new customers because that's the word of mouth and the exposure of them saying, "Hey, let me give this place a try." But I absolutely love return customers because that lets me know that we are doing several things correct.
Right.
The quality of the work is correct, and then our level of understanding our client is correct. Because if it was not, they just simply wouldn't come back. It's a very easy industry to all of a sudden see someone wearing a shirt that you didn't make and be like, "Oh, what what did we do?" And you never want to see that. You always want to be involved in everything,
Yeah.
as much as humanly possible. um and that's why return business is so important for us. It's our driving force, is
Right.
making sure that we can have people love what we've done for them so much that they're comfortable returning, that they're comfortable spreading the word, and that they're
Yeah.
comfortable sending referrals. And that's the name of the game.
80/20 rule, man. And I tell everybody 80% of your success is coming from 20% of your customers. And so, sorry, getting a call. I need to put my phone on mute, sorry. Or do not disturb. There we go. But yeah, man. And so that's and I get it, cast a wide net, but and try to get 100 contacts, for example, right? But most of those, as we start to understand like conversion rates, not everybody is going to convert or is ready to buy from you right now.
Right now,
And so,
yes.
right, so those 20% of people, or those 20 people, right, if reach out to 100, if you really want to make sure that they are then taken care of, so that they can then go and do the promoting and the marketing on your behalf to the other 80, right?
Right.
Versus you trying to get the other 80 to come and, do business with you, which,
Yeah.
goes back to your whole point, right? It's like, really take care of your customers and ensure that they're happy so that they can start pulling other people in.
Oh yeah, and being patient. I mean,
Totally.
it was funny that you mentioned when they're ready, because I actually got an email this morning from a potential client who's now turning into a client, and
Congrats.
our email, thank you, our email correspondence started in January, and there were gaps of like 2 or 3 weeks where nothing was said, and then this morning was like, "Hey, we're ready to go," and I was like,
I
"Yeah."
love it.
and that's
Totally.
and that's just being patient, understanding that they needed time to gather the information that they needed to gather, and not to also be overbearing, in that
Totally.
just always offering words of advice, or saying, "Hey, if there's any assistance that you need, whether it's collaborating, whether it's taking care of artwork, or just want to hop on the call to say, hey, this is why these things are taking so long," like we're down for all of that. Like,
Totally.
I will wait.
Well, and that's, I mean, it's nurturing the relationship, right?
100%.
And people are so eager to, like, oh, I need money, I need money, I need money, that they don't recognize that their customer has pain points and problems and things going on
Yep.
in their own world, right? And so if you really want to be of service, it's sort of recognizing that, like, hey, well, let me help make their job easier in terms of ultimately making a decision when they're ready. And that's
Yep.
part of like the dating process. You don't ask somebody to marry you on the first date. You know what I mean? You gotta take a little time, get to know you. You know what I mean? All
Yeah.
that good stuff, man.
Funny story.
Uh,
I asked my wife to marry me the first time I saw her.
Never mind.
She told me I was crazy.
There you go. Okay, all right, there we
I
go.
was
There
crazy,
we
and we
go.
should probably slow things down. We did end up getting married like 8 years later.
8 years. Oh
Yeah,
man, you
yeah.
are patient. You are
Buddy,
patient.
talk about courtship, right? Patience. I told you, I will wait.
That part. I love it, Sheldon. Well, going back to that, even mindful of your value proposition in the form of your process,
Yes.
like I think patience is a big part of your process. And how does that relate to, I know that T-shirts offers embroidery, different screen printing techniques and different promotional products. Can you talk to us or maybe break down when each method is best to be used, or how you guys focus on those individual processes?
Yeah. So for embroidery, it's actually a lot simpler.
Okay.
Um, that is for high-end exposure, in my eyes. If you have a company that wants a very professional, very sleek look, and your employees are going to be wearing polo shirts, I will always advise that you do embroidery because it looks nice, it sits very well on the polo. Then you have some of our clients that prefer to do t-shirts, whether they have employees that are out in the field or some that are out in the office, even places like grocery outlet. And so I will always explain there are three different like imprint methods when it comes to doing that. Like you have the screen printing, you have DTF, which is direct to film, and then you have DTG, which is direct to garment. For the screen
Mm,
printing, I always advise that for bulk orders and for simplicity, just because there are like setting up of different screens that takes place. With if you have direct to film, it's more flexibility on just the overall pieces that you can have, and then we can do small runs on any fabric, and then we can do it full color. For direct to garment, I am not a huge fan, and the reason why I tend to skip it is it only works extremely well on like 100% cotton. The pre-treatment is kind of messy and is very time consuming. The production times are actually a lot slower, and it's not really cost effective for people unless you're doing like one shirt. And very rarely
mm.
we have someone come in and say, "Hey, I just need one shirt."
Interesting. I love that. Man, you
Right.
really know your stuff, Sheldon. I
This
love
is
that.
it. I have this second superpower where I love information, and it does not matter the field that I get into. I dive in.
Mm,
I want to know why. I want to know the processes that go behind it. We've taken the team out to a couple expos, the most recent one being in Long Beach, where we got to have conversations with other screen printing companies and then other suppliers that have been in the game far longer than we have.
mm,
And I am humble. I will take all of the information and I will listen. I am not above someone giving me advice.
totally.
I will listen to that, and I learned a lot, which is the point of the expos is to go there and gain as much knowledge as possible, as well as seeing what is currently trending for promotional items and even techniques. And that's where I actually saw a lot of the changes where you have what I like to call the old school crowd, which I am a part of. We love screen printing. It's like that's give me my screen print. I want to do that.
Classic.
We want quality. We want it at scale. Let's do this. And then you have the group that says, hey, we want more flexibility. We want more vibrant colors, and we need what I like to call fabric freedom, which is
Mm,
the ability to choose, poly blend, 100% cotton, organic cotton, and using those things and learning from the different suppliers at these expos that the direct to garment sort of doesn't deliver the speed and the consistency or the versatility that the shop demands.
mm,
It
mm.
was not at the forefront of things that we needed to do.
Man, now, and I don't want you to give away too many like trade secrets and
Gotcha.
whatnot. But how do you guide clients in making production choices that align with their budget and brand?
I'm very transparent.
Okay.
Transparency is key. And I do let them know like whatever the prices are and the setup for the minimums and why we have those minimums.
Okay.
And when you're transparent and you explain your reasons why to people,
Hmm.
you're also giving them knowledge. And
Exactly.
when you give them the knowledge, then they can make a more educated decision.
Mm,
If I tell you, hey, our minimums for screen printing is going to be, 24 shirts because it's more cost effective for you that way. And you said, hey, Sheldon, I don't really care about the costs. I have these 5 shirts and I want them screen printed.
hmm.
Then as long as you know and you're comfortable with that, and that's the decision that you would like to make, we'll honor it. We're not going to say, no, we absolutely won't. But I want you to be aware of the realm that you're stepping into and
Right.
why we guide people towards certain things. And a lot of it is dependent upon their budget, but also dependent upon their personal preferences. So I like people to come into the store because we are a brick and mortar store. I like people to come into the
Yep.
store, touch the shirts, touch screen print, touch the director film, and then have them actually get an idea of, oh, I like how this feels, or I don't like how this feels. I understand why this has this price point. I understand why this has this price point. Awesome. Which one do you want?
That part.
Because I have now given you all the information, full
Right.
transparency. Yes. Now you can make the best educated decision because I don't actually know your budget.
Right.
You know your true budget, and I don't run around saying, "Hey, how much do you want to spend?" Like, no, 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 no. No, you know that. You keep that information to yourself. Like
Right.
this is what we have, and then we just go based off of that.
I love it. So the transparency allows for the trust to develop, and
Oh,
then
100%.
right.
I believe in being 100% transparent with everything because that's also how I am.
Yeah.
If I were to walk into anyone else's business, if I wanted to go buy a home, I would expect that everyone would be transparent with me, letting
Right.
me know what I'm getting into. Like, hey, by the way, if you buy this house, yeah, there's termites and the roof might cave in like 2 years, but if you love it, then buy it. Trans-
Sheldon, why transitioning a bit here. Why did you decide to appear on today's webinar?
oh, because I love you. You're my boy. I felt like this was a great opportunity to present us and ourselves on any available platform. But then also to let people know, and everybody watching, everyone that I've mentioned this to, uh, that we are new owners.
Yep.
Because I've had a couple people come in and not realize that there had been an initial transition,
Hmm. Hmm.
or thinking that it was still like the original owner, and just letting them know it is us, it is new owners, and our mindset, it's a little bit different, and our
Hmm.
procedures are a little bit different. And I take the time to explain those to people so that they don't feel misled in any way.
I love that. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here, man. I've got three more questions for you before we get well, four questions before we get
Let's
out of here.
go.
We're gonna try to keep them short. Going back to inventory management and order sizes, for example, do you have any tips for businesses that are just getting started out with merch?
uh start small,
Start small. Yeah,
and
you
and
mentioned
and
that.
focus on your core items,
Okay.
and use your business and your business identity,
Mm,
gauge what your potential clientele for merch will actually want. Because
that part.
there's some I've we deal with what's his name? Mitchell from Taylor Garage Doors.
Mm.
And I love the hoodie designs that we've done for them. And I've actually had people say, hey, like, where'd you get that? And I'm like, oh, it's for this. And I was like, well, I don't need a garage door or anything, but that hoodie is pretty cool. And that's what you want.
That's a great design.
It's a different clientele base than may actually need your services, if
Woo!
that makes sense. But
That's
then they can
iconic.
potentially end up needing your services.
Totally. That is
Yeah.
iconic.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
totally.
Mitchell.
Where it's just all like, hey, that's just a cool shirt. You know what I mean? I don't really even care about the business,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But
I,
then
I
you're
I
just
just I just want the shirt.
right, which is totally cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Now we heard a little bit about the horror stories.
Mhm.
What I would love to hear is, well, I mean, I guess maybe you just said it, but Can you share maybe another story where custom merch helped a client build real brand visibility or momentum?
Yeah. Most recently did a project for Partners Against Violence.
Oh, wow.
And it was the silence shirts. They actually had a art contest, and
Oh,
the winning design was actually brought to us to put into production, which we did, and now we are. So this is how it started off. They wanted to do 25 shirts. I said, okay, we can do that. That's not a problem. And because you guys are, nonprofit, we also want to do a small donation for you guys as well.
awesome.
I said, but we should probably check on pre-orders. And after checking on pre-orders, that went from 25 to 75.
Whoa.
And I said, we should probably do 100 if just the first week of you asking you're at 75. And it was like, no, we'll be good. We did it 75. They needed 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ended up
Yeah,
we ended up running 100 for them. We see the shirts everywhere. They were most recently worn with the Partners Against Violence when they visited the city of 29 Palms.
Awesome.
And all the
Oh, yep,
police
yep,
had their
yep, yep.
shirts on during that picture. And seeing that brings like such a smile to
Mm,
our face to know that we were a part of bringing that vision that they had with that design and putting it on a piece of apparel and having it out there. And
yeah.
also knowing that with each purchase, it went towards a good cause. That's me.
Oh man, that was a beautiful study or case study and example. And I mean, so many like little nuggets there. I think something for the viewers or listeners to consider is if you don't have an idea for a design, I mean, turn it into a contest where your
Right.
customers can help you, figure that out, right?
Yep,
And
make it
to
engaging.
right? And then I think to the other part is like, maybe I, partner with the cause or, run with somebody else and maybe donate a portion of sales to an organization that aligns with your brand, for
Yes.
example, right? So I love that. Or, to your other point, like if you have a team event, make sure that that's almost like a walking billboard where you have
Yes.
2 to 5 to 10 members of your team wearing the same thing, and people are like, "Hey, what's going on over there? Why are they all dressed the same way?" Right?
Nailed it.
You know what I mean? Um, Now my last question. Well, I've got two more, but this is the last like real interview question. But I want to hear from you, Sheldon. How has the merchandise game evolved over the years, and what trends do you think creators should be paying attention to now?
Ooh. Uh, it's constantly evolving. I mean,
Okay.
it's evolved over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Especially with the ongoing tariffs that are taking
Oh.
place. It's starting to change the landscape of not only where things are being manufactured and purchased from, but the quality being used and then the type of things that are being used.
Mm.
Right now, we're seeing a lot of what I like to call urban wear, oversized shirts, a bit thicker material. One of our suppliers, Ignacio Apparel, they make a really nice, like heavyweight shirt, very similar to like a Shaka or like a Pro Club
Mm,
style
mhm,
shirt.
mhm, mhm,
And that's the current trend for shirts. Hoodies are going to be hoodies. Like they're just gonna do their things. But drinkware
mhm.
is actually starting to have
Mm.
a nice uptick because of functionality. Where before I think it was kind of widely ignored because people are like, oh, I'm just gonna grab a whole bunch of shirts and throw them on and people are wearing them. I'm like, yeah, you know what coffee cup I drank out of this morning?
Mm.
Like that constant reminder that's in someone's house, that shirt they might wear it once a week, that might end up being like their favorite coffee cup where they wash it out and use it every day.
Like the Stanley Cups. I remember the
Sure.
Stanley Cups were huge for, what was it, like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that.
Yep, and it's still strong. We're seeing a lot of requests for that, or even just a basic coffee mug. I think we made one uh for a friend of ours that was saying I want to grow my own food, but
Mm.
I can't find any bacon seeds. And I thought that was the most hilarious thing in the world. And I was like, we're putting that on a cup. I was like, that's going on a cup because that's
Oh
a
my
medium
goodness.
quality right there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Sheldon, man, this was such a great interview and so many jewels that you have just been so generous with and of. I think my big thing is, T-shirts is a Black Cactus's merchandise partner of choice, the first place that we go to for all of our merchandise needs,
Appreciate
and
that.
certainly want to. And we also try to refer as many of our coworkers to T-shirts, as possible. Our big thing, continues to be our corporate retreats. And so if you're visiting the 29 Palms and or Joshua Tree area and you are interested in, taking advantage of one of our corporate retreats, but maybe need some merch to make the experience, that much more beautiful, reach out and, Sheldon most likely will be our supplier for the shirts or the mugs or anything else that it will make the weekend that much more memorable. But that being said, Sheldon, I'd love for you to maybe talk a little bit about ways for our audience to engage with you, to get to know you, get to know T-shirts, and maybe, talk to you about some of their merchandising needs in the future.
So I really love face to face. Our address 7245 Joshua Lane, Suite B. We're right in between the Chase Bank and Huntington Music, and also the post office. Please stop by. Our email address is connect@Tease Shirts. That's TEASE shirts with an S at the end .org. I also love emails, but I'll probably tell you in the email, stop by.
Come
Like,
hang out.
yeah. If you have the time, coming in and having an experience of actually standing in the store, it can't be replicated through the email. If you're too busy and you just want to do email correspondence, I have no problem with that. But stepping in the store definitely gives you an understanding of what we bring to the table.
Awesome. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, Sheldon, thank you so much for the time today.
We're gonna run this back like once a quarter.
Come on, man. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? There's too much game and knowledge, and maybe even like a workshop or something, brother.
Oh yeah.
This is so much fun.
We're definitely gonna talk.
Right? All right, man. Well, tell Michelle Lindsay I said hello. You know what I mean? Definitely appreciate everything, brother. And I'll definitely send you a version of this once it's ready to go, okay?
I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later.
All right, bye.
Take care.
Looking for an inspiring location for your next corporate retreat? The Joshua Tree Gateway communities and surrounding desert landscapes offer the perfect blend of tranquility, peace, and quiet. Why choose 29 Palms? 29 Palms offers its unique beauty to create an ideal relaxation and team bonding experience. Corporate leadership teams and nonprofit boards can engage in outdoor activities, fostering stronger team bonds and boosting innovation. Perfect accommodations. Stay at comfortable local lodgings that blend desert charm with modern amenities. Black Cactus Co-working's meeting space is designed to cater to your business needs, ensuring productivity and comfort. Just a short drive from the Palm Springs International Airport, Joshua Tree offers exciting, engaging team-building activities, including guided hikes and creative workshops. These fun desert activities promote important business health metrics, such as collaboration and trust amongst teammates. Joshua Tree is the ideal place for a corporate retreat that blends relaxation, adventure, and productivity. Don't miss the chance to rejuvenate your team in this stunning location. Call Black Cactus Co-working today to start planning your custom corporate desert retreat.